Picture Rome. Not the polished postcard of white marble and noble statues, but the living, breathing city that hid beneath it. Imagine walking through narrow streets at dusk, the smell of smoke and bread, the sound of sandals scraping on stone, merchants calling out, children laughing, a drunk shouting somewhere in the dark. The air is heavy, humid, alive. Beneath all the order, beneath the pride of empire, lived a people who carried hunger, fear, exhaustion, and a longing to escape, even if just for a moment. And they found their ways. Some turned to wine thick with honey and herbs. Others burned leaves in clay bowls and breathed the smoke. There were powders to make the mind sharper, and draughts to make it drift away. They sniffed, drank, burned, and swallowed nature's gifts, herbs, roots, and resins that dulled pain or lit up the imagination. In ancient Rome, there was no sharp line between medicine and pleasure. The same potion could heal the body or feed the soul. Drugs weren't forbidden. They were companions of daily life. From the soldier's camp, where men fought fear with courage wine, to the villas of senators, where silk-robed guests sought a softer kind of oblivion. Even inside the temples of the gods, incense and narcotic herbs filled the air, blurring the space between prayer and intoxication. This was the Rome rarely shown in history books, the Rome of restless hearts, searching for peace in the hands of the earth itself. The Romans believed that for every pain there was an answer hidden somewhere in the earth. To them, the world itself was a medicine chest, mountains rich with healing roots, valleys of wild herbs, forests that whispered secrets of relief. Painkillers, stimulants, aphrodisiacs, sedatives, all waited quietly in plants, if you only knew where to look. Farmers crushed leaves into oils and rubbed them into aching backs after long days in the fields. Poets and philosophers mixed herbs into their wine, hoping that inspiration might rise like vapor from the cup. Soldiers on campaign chewed bitter stems to keep exhaustion away, and healers carried satchels of powders to numb the wounds of war. But beneath this knowledge lay desperation. Life in Rome was fragile. War, hunger, disease always waiting at the door. 1 in 3 infants never lived to see their first birthday. Of 10 children, barely half would reach the age of 5. The ones who survived grew into a life of constant labor, men bending under the weight of harvests and weapons, women bound to childbirth and loss. So the Romans turned to nature, not just for healing, but for mercy. A potion that softened pain was a blessing. A drink that dulled fear was a small miracle. For many, intoxication was not sin, it was survival. A brief release from a long struggle, a quiet breath in a world that rarely gave them one. What makes Rome truly different from us is that nobody tried to hide it. The empire didn't just tolerate its people's craving for escape, it organized it. In a world of pain and poverty, the Roman state became both healer and supplier, selling its citizens the very things that softened their despair. Opium, cannabis, hashish, all traded openly, sometimes as medicine, often as pleasure. Apothecaries ground their powders in the shadow of marble temples. Slaves carried jars of poppy sap through crowded streets. Even priests used mixtures of herbs and wine for holy visions. The government taxed the business like any other. Prices were fixed, quality controlled, so that even the poor could afford a small taste of forgetfulness. By the 4th century, records mention 793 state-licensed shops where opium could be bought legally as easily as bread or oil. Imagine walking through a Roman marketplace at noon, merchants shouting, the scent of olives and spice in the air, the sun glinting off bronze coins and glass jars. You pass stalls of fruit, meat, and pottery, and then, one shelf over, small cakes of dark resin, labeled simply Papaver somniferum, the sleep bringer. A loaf of bread, a bottle of wine, and a night's peace, all in one place, all approved by the empire itself. Of all the drugs known to Rome, one stood above the rest: opium. The naturalist Pliny the Elder described its harvest: small cuts on the green poppy heads, where the white sap bled out slowly, like tears from the earth. They called it lacrimae papaveris, the tears of the poppy. Just a few drops could quiet pain, soften grief, or pull the body gently into sleep. The poet Ovid once wrote, "When I drink the soothing opium, I lose the weight of bad days." To soldiers, it was relief from wounds, to midwives, a mercy in childbirth, and to thinkers, a doorway into silence. In a city driven by ambition and noise, opium offered what Rome desired most, but rarely found: rest. Rome's greatness marched on discipline by day and on opium dreams by night. The Romans were never afraid to mix things. Their wine was more than a drink, it was a laboratory of taste and imagination. Into their cups went honey for sweetness, resin for strength, pepper, saffron, and myrrh for the scent of faraway lands, and sometimes something far more powerful. They believed that the right blend could heal the body or lift the spirit. A recipe could be a cure, a ritual, or a risk. One famous potion was called Theriaca, a thick, dark syrup of more than 60 ingredients, from cinnamon and poppy to crushed viper. To some, it was medicine, to others a luxury reserved for the wealthy, and to many it was a little piece of myth in a bottle. They knew no chemistry, only curiosity. Their science was instinct, their testing done on themselves. Some mixtures healed, some inspired poetry, and some killed. Not every Roman potion was made to calm the mind. Some were created to do the opposite, to wake it up. Through the trade routes from Arabia and Persia came a small desert plant called ephedra, rich in natural stimulants that quickened the heartbeat and cleared the lungs. Soldiers chewed its bitter stems on long marches to stay alert and endure fatigue. Gladiators took it before combat to sharpen their reflexes, and the wealthy mixed it into spiced wine, stretching their feasts and dances deep into the night. Rome had no coffee, no tea, no modern caffeine, yet they already understood the temptation of energy without rest, the thrill of pushing the body a little further than it should go. As the empire grew, moderation slowly disappeared. The hunger for conquest turned inward. Rome began conquering itself through pleasure. Emperors like Nero and Caligula turned indulgence into a performance. Banquets stretched for days. Fountains poured wine instead of water. The air was heavy with perfume and smoke, and guests wandered through moonlit gardens, half drunk, half dreaming, wrapped in silk and music. The philosopher Seneca looked at this world and warned that Rome had become sick with its own luxury. Maybe he was right. The empire was intoxicated, not only by its herbs and wines, but by the taste of its own grandeur. Pleasure had become a religion, and excess its god. Not every high was about pleasure. Some sought something far beyond the senses. In the mystery cults of Dionysus, Isis, and Cybele, trance was not sin, it was revelation. In torchlit temples, the air thick with incense and song, priests and priestesses drank herbal wines to blur the border between the human and the divine. Their goal was not escape, but connection, to lose the self and, in doing so, touch the gods. To surrender control was to open the spirit, not to vice, but to vision. Faith and chemistry shared the same cup, and for a fleeting moment, devotion and intoxication became one and the same. Every high must fade. And so did Rome's. As the centuries passed, the lights of the empire began to dim. The laughter of the feasts quieted, the markets that once overflowed with spice and wine grew still. Trade routes that tied the empire to the east began to fray, and the fertile poppy fields of the Mediterranean turned back to dust. Opium drifted east once more, waiting patiently for new hands, new kingdoms, and a new age to rediscover its strange power. What remained was not the intoxication, but the memory of it. The memory of a people who, for all their pride and glory, had simply tried to ease their pain with the gifts of the earth. We've changed the tools: caffeine, alcohol, pills, glowing screens, but not the hunger behind them. We still search for the same things they did, a way to calm the noise, to ease the ache, to feel free, even for a moment. The Romans were never so different from us. Their empire fell, their temples turned to stone, but the desire that filled their cups never vanished. Rome is gone. Yet the longing that once ran through its veins still flows quietly through ours, the timeless wish to escape the weight of the world, if only for a heartbeat. Thank you for staying with me until the end of this journey through ancient Rome. If you enjoyed this film, consider leaving a like. It helps more than you might think. And if you'd like to walk further into history's quieter corners, you're welcome to subscribe and join me for the next story. Until then, thank you for watching.